The last piece of biosocial theory I want to discuss is temperament. Uh, Temperament is defined as our natural mood disposition, thought to be largely determined by genetics and biological influences. This is our natural mood. Do you naturally have a good temperament? Are you normally even tempered? Are you somebody that flies off the handle easily? Moody, someone who's always kind of down the dumps and blue or snaps at people, whatever. Temperament is your natural mood disposition, how you are in a normal, usual circumstance, in lieu of any sort of influencing outside influence. Temperament can influence how the environment interacts with us. And to give you an example from early childhood, consider that a consistently ill-tempered child, a child who is fussy, cries a lot, constantly kind of a problem for parents, crying, fussy, always hungry, hard to get to sleep, that sort of kid, may become very frustrating to parents or caregivers. Parents are having to get up at all hours of the night, they're not getting a lot of sleep, they're the kids that it seems like no matter what you do, you can't get them to be quiet and sleep, and they're always hungry. So parents that don't have a good predisposition for dealing with that may become very irritable. Their irritability, their short-temperedness, in turn can affect the child's temperament. So if the kid's ill-tempered and the parents don't have the skills to deal with the kid's ill temperament, then you get an irritable parent. The irritable parent makes the kid's mood even worse, increasing the problems. Frustrated parents. The parent's frustration eventually may be expressed through either physical or emotional abuse or neglect of the child. Consider then that abuse and neglect is often a contributing factor in delinquency, which predicts adult criminal behavior. And so here's your interaction between an inherited trait, an environment, and crime. The inherited trait, the poor mood disposition, irritability, interacts with the environment, which is the parent with the poor coping skills to begin with that becomes irritable. That interaction increases problems. The parent reacts, possibly becoming abusive. That abuse then, as the child grows and experiences the abuse, the child becomes ineffectively socialized. The child doesn't learn how to make pro-social peer relationships. And as a result, the child may also learn that violence, aggression, abusive type behaviors is the appropriate way to express anger and frustration. As they get older, they get frustrated, they get angry, and that can result in some forms of delinquent, particularly violent delinquency and aggressive behavior. Research does make some assumptions about temperament that are relevant to biosocial criminology. First, researchers assume that temperament has a biological or genetic component to it. We have a natural predisposition towards a particular temperament. And if you think about it, certain people are just naturally kind of easygoing people. And you've met those folks. Sometimes they irk you off because no matter what happens, you have that one guy that just nothing bothers him. Natural disposition. Maybe a genetic cause. Research also assumes that temperament first appears in infancy. That the hints of who you will become, what your natural temperament is hinted at, that begins to develop in infancy. But then scientists also assume or understand that temperament is influenced by the environment. And so you might have a kid who has whose initial temperament might be a mild temperament, but the environment might influence that temperament to be more irritable, frustrated, be more difficult. Opposite can happen as well. There are 3 dimensions of temperament that you ought to know. First is activity, which involves the gross motor movement in infants. The more kids move about, the better. There is emotionality, referred to things like irritability, sensitivity, soothability, emotional intensity. And then there is self-regulation that relates to the extent that the child controls his own behavior, independent of people outside of him. All 3 of these dimensions, activity, emotionality, and self-regulation, are needed to understand the development of antisocial behavior. But self-regulation, self-control, seems to have the most direct correlation. Children with poor self-regulation early in life tend to be more prone towards antisocial behavior later in life. And so again, this underscores the need, at least according to biosocial criminologists, to combine study of biology and environment and neurobiology or neurotransmitter activity in the brain. And that is the conclusion of my discussion of biosocial criminology. I'm going to end this video short so I can start my discussion on feminism with a fresh video. That way you can kind of separate your watching. So first 3 videos are on this, so now's a good time to take a break or quit for the evening and come back and pick up video 4 where I begin the discussion on feminist theory after your break or tomorrow or whatever.